Hello, health warriors. Today I want to talk about heavy metal, and I don't mean the loud rock and roll music kind of heavy metals. I mean heavy metals that we can be exposed to in our environment that may make us sick. And I want to answer a couple of questions. First, what are heavy metals? Where do we get them? How can we reduce our exposure? How can we test for it? What can we do if our tests are high? So let's jump in. So here's the question. Are heavy metals making you sick? What do we mean by heavy metals? So we've got toxic metals such as lead, mercury, cadmium, and arsenic, and others. But then there's essential metals that we need for processes in our body for our health, such as iron, zinc, copper, and magnesium. So there's a difference between essential metals and toxic metals. The toxic metals can be a problem when they accumulate in the body faster than they can be excreted out. And when the body moves toxins out of the blood and puts it into our bone and our brain. We certainly don't want these toxic substances in our brain. We have to talk about the toxic barrel or the amount of toxins our body can handle. We can handle some baseline toxins, and then when we're exposed to toxins, whether it's mold or heavy metals, our level goes up. Sometimes food choices can be toxic. And then if we have a viral illness, our toxic barrel can easily overflow. And that's when we talk about our total toxic load. So not just heavy metals, but all toxins. Certainly heavy metals can contribute to that. And that, when our toxic level is high, is when we start to have problems. Why do they cause problems? So think about all the amazing biochemical, microscopic processes that go on in the body that help generate energy, that help fuel every cell in our body, that help us get rid of toxins. Heavy metal and other toxins gum up these processes. And as a result of these stuck or gummed up biochemical processes, we can develop long-term complications such as neurodegenerative diseases, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, cardiovascular disease, heart attacks and strokes, and cancer. We definitely don't want those. Other long-term complications are Parkinson's, Alzheimer, peripheral neuropathy, where we have numbness or tingling in our feet, heart, cardiovascular diseases such as hypertension and blockage of the arteries, atherosclerosis, renal failure. We are seeing a significant increase in renal disease in this country. Long-term complications of toxic metals can also be infertility, miscarriages, low birth weight, and cancers. Of course, this is just one of the pieces of all of these diseases. Symptoms of a heavy metal, how do you know if you have it? Sometimes it's kind of vague because it is a lot of different organ systems. Certainly not neurological, cognitive, brain fog, memory loss, headaches, mood changes. Heart disease, anemia, it definitely can affect our kidneys as well as our liver. Elevated liver enzymes on a lab may be seen. Can affect our musculoskeletal system, especially osteopenia and fractures related to cadmium. Can affect the skin, can affect the gastrointestinal system, and sometimes we hear about a metallic taste in the mouth. And what we're most concerned about is the effects on the immune and the endocrine system, affecting the thyroid and causing chronic inflammation. So treatment involves getting less toxins in and more toxins out, so our barrel is not overflowing. The best way to prevent toxic metal exposure is to be aware of where they come from. So sources of lead, older paint, plumbing, batteries, contaminated water. We used to have lead in our gas for our cars, and welders or sanders, people that work on car parts. So if you are in one of these professions, let's think about what you can do. If you are sanding or exposed or cutting through paint before 1978, you may want to think about testing that paint before you start sanding it or cutting into it where you would be aerosolizing parts of lead that you would then breathe in. Certainly, think about wearing a mask and gloves and something over your mask, even over your hair, and then cleaning all of the products very well so you're not continuing to aerosolize and breathe in the particles. Another common source of lead had been lead pipes, or even more importantly, copper pipes that have lead soldering. This was banned in homes in 1986. So again, if you're working on a home older than that, think about what you may be exposed to. We also used to have lead in our gasoline for our road vehicles. This was banned in 1996 for automobiles only. Lead is still used in aviation gas and some off-road racing cars. You can be exposed to lead in gasoline or have previously been exposed to it when you were pumping your gas. In exhaust, as the leaded gas would burn, there was lead in the exhaust. So if you were in traffic or behind cars or a runner who was exposed to these fumes as you were running, you were potentially breathing in lead. Sources of mercury, fish, dental fillings, some light bulbs, some of the old thermometers had mercury in it. Some industry gives off mercury or uses mercury in their processing. And vaccines before 1999 did have some mercury in it as an adjunct to make it work better. Mercury, we especially have to be aware of exposure to mercury if you happen to have the ApoE4 gene. Now, there's different variations of this gene. We get one from each parent. So if you have A4, whether it's a 3-4 or a 4-4 variation, that means you potentially are at risk for Alzheimer's disease. That's because people with this variation make more plaques in the brain, but also because these people don't clear mercury very well. So if you do have an ApoE4 gene, we need to be more aggressive with testing and clearing mercury. This test, the ApoE gene, can be done through conventional labs like Quest and LabCorp. So say you do have some old mercury fillings, what do we do about it? You don't have to rush out and get them all removed. It is believed that once they have been there for 10 or more years, most of the surface mercury has been released. But as these fail, you'll want to have them removed, and you'll want to have them removed safely. The picture here shows a person having appropriate protection when they're having their teeth removed. The thing you see over the mouth with the teeth poking through is called a dental dam. So as they're drilling through the mercury and getting into the some of the mercury that may not have released its toxins, we don't want you swallowing pieces of mercury. We also don't want you breathing in mercury vapor. So there's a device with oxygen over the nose so that you're not breathing it. And this person also has on glasses to protect you. The dentist should also be protecting themselves from mercury as well. Mercury can be in fish. This is information from the Environmental Working Group. And up in the upper right corner where the circle is, these are the healthier choices of fish, such as mackerel, herring, sardines, rainbow trout, and salmon. Some of the ones that have more toxins would be tuna and marlin down here in the bottom. And Environmental Working Group also recommends that if you are getting canned salmon or lower mercury or light tuna instead of canned albacore tuna, which might have higher mercury levels in it. Arsenic. This can also be in fish and in water. This arsenic comes from the ground, so any products that grow in an area that is high in arsenic can potentially have arsenic taken up into the food. And rice is an example of that. There are certain areas that have higher levels of arsenic just in the ground. So that means the water in that area may have a higher level of arsenic. Arsenic has also been used in pesticides. Um, it makes me think about the old movie Arsenic and Old Lace, where the old ladies were poisoning their guests with arsenic. So we know the toxic effects of arsenic. Um, Arsenic can also be used in industry and in tobacco. Arsenic can be in water, so if you have well water, you may want to get that tested. It can also be in the water where our fish are swimming. Um, some of the fish that have the highest amount of arsenic would be the bottom-dwelling fish, like flounders. And not all rivers or lakes have arsenic in it. So again, it's very geographic. Um, some fish, like shark, sturgeon, have a higher amount of arsenic. Aluminum. We have to think about cookwares and acids, aluminum food cans. Vaccines do have a little bit of aluminum to make them work better. Some of the antiperspirants, not the deodorants, but the antiperspirants have aluminum, and some aspirins. So what can we do to reduce our risk? Think about cooking and storage. Aluminum pans that we may cook in can convey aluminum to our food. And certainly when we wrap our food for storage or for cooking, with aluminum foil, and even some of our pans that have aluminum in them, we want to try and avoid. Changing to cast iron would be a good option, or some of the low toxin cookware. Aluminum, there are a lot of good aluminum-free, commercially available deodorants and antiperspirants now. Aluminum cans, good options would be frozen. A lot of those are organic and much fresher because they go straight to the freezer. So diagnosing toxic metals, this can be challenging because we should not have toxic metals in our blood. Our body wants to take any circulating heavy metals and stick it into organs, liver, brain, bones. So sometimes getting a test is a little bit challenging. We can get a blood test through LabCorp or Quest. Um, and it can give us good information, and insurance can cover it. So this is an example of a blood test. You'll see that the reference range over here on the side is 0 to 4. Well, technically, we're really not supposed to have any lead circulating in our blood or in our body. So, and by functional medicine standards, we would really want that to be 0. As you see, this person does have a level of 14. This is a person who works with guns and welding. So blood, not the best way to check, but hey, gives us good information. Another way to check is with hair testing. Again, not a perfect test, but it's affordable, it's easy. We do have to use natural hair, undyed hair. And yes, you have to cut your hair all the way to the scalp, enough about the thickness of your little finger. Um, as you can see, this person definitely had high levels. The black lines go into the red for antimony and lead. One of the good things about the hair test is it also shows us the level of these good minerals. And there's a whole long list of them: iodine, boron, lithium, and my favorite, molybdenum, spelled funny, fun to say. Um, and on this graph, we want to see the black lines in the green, and it'd be better to see it on the higher side, more to the right. This person tends to be a little bit lower in all of their nutrients, their good metals, which is interesting because this is the same person that had this is the same hair sample. So we use these good metals to push out the bad metals. An even better way to test is in urine. And the best way to test is to give you a pill, a medicine, that pulls the heavy metals out of your tissue where they're stored. This is usually a two-part test. The first part of it is done before you take the pill that shows us what you're exposed to. What you're peeing out on a daily basis is usually what you're exposed to on a daily basis. Then you take the pill, we see what we can pull out. That's what this test is showing. And you can see that we were able to pull out significant amount of lead and palladium and mercury. This happened to be a dentist who had been for years drilling mercury fillings. So, what is the treatment for high levels of toxic metals? First of all, it's personalized. I'm just going to give you some general overview. Prevention first. Limit your exposure, reduce your exposure. Then we frequently, the place to start, push heavy metals out of the body by getting in good things like zinc, selenium, and manganese. We can use herbs like cilantro that are especially good for pulling and chelating lead and aluminum. We can use garlic and chlorella. What the heck is chlorella? It is a beautiful green algae from fresh water. It can be taken as a powder or a capsule or even an extract. It's a beautiful color. It's a little bit of a binder, but it's also a detoxer and it's a superfood with a lot of nutrients. Can be a little hard on the gut, so we don't want to jump right in with a lot of that. We may need to slowly work up to it. So some people who work in industries where they are exposed take this every day. Chelation therapy. That is giving you a medicine such as DMSA or EDTA. Yes, those are abbreviations for big long words I can't pronounce. And these medicines pull the toxins out. It's not something you want to take every day. And this is the same idea that we used before the urine test. So, who should consider testing for toxic metals? Those of us that got more years on us. Those that have had a known exposure, like they've worked or they've just sanded some lead paint and they don't feel good, or lead in the water like we had seen in Flint, Michigan, or if there had been a mercury spill. Occupational risk, people who are welders, miner, battery manufacturers, which there is in our area here, painters and lab workers. If there's a family history of mold toxicity, or you have a genetic susceptibility, maybe you have the ApoE4 gene. You have some chronic unexplained symptoms that we've not found any other reason for, especially neurological. Any kind of autoimmune conditions, because metals can be disruptors to the immune system. Um, or neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, ALS, and some cancers we have to think about, especially bladder cancer after chronic arsenic exposure. Testing, how much does it cost? The hair test costs about $150. Has to be natural hair, not dyed. Your hair has to be cut. And shampoos can alter it, so we may ask that you look at your shampoos and make sure that they don't have metals in them as well. Blood, we can get it through, hopefully paid by your insurance company. If insurance doesn't pay, it's $250. We have found a way that we can get it direct from Quest for $100. That's a whole panel with 4 different heavy metals. This does not show what's hiding in your tissues, only what's in your blood. We can do a provoked urine that takes actually 2 tests. It also requires kidney testing prior to that, and a prescription that costs about $90. And so the total of all that with the prescription, the 2 tests, is going to be about $500, but it gives us the best information. So all this may seem scary, but I want to end with your body knows how to restore balance when we give it the right support. This is not something that's forever. We can certainly heal and recover from heavy metal toxicity.